Alright, well I see you're back for another car review. This one is featuring the 2021 Hyundai Santa Fe SEL trim. So, sorry I haven't posted about my LS460 project car. I will be doing a video on the air suspension conversion tomorrow. So, there you go, that's my update on that vehicle. But let's go ahead and let's talk about this one right here that we're reviewing. So, I already did a full review on the 2020 Santa Fe turbo front-wheel drive last year. It was a press car, and I really appreciated that car. One of the things I absolutely loved about that vehicle was just how quiet, solid, and how well it rode over bumps. It was one of the most comfortable cars in the segment by far. I actually thought that that vehicle might have been even more comfortable and quiet than the RX 350 Lexus. So that is some pretty high praise right there. And it's just a modest Hyundai. So let's go ahead and let's take out this Hyundai Santa Fe, the 2021, see if they made any changes to how it drives. I know they made some drivetrain changes, of course, and I'm going to be talking more about that as we move here. So one of the main deficiencies that I noticed with the Santa Fe, especially last year, was just the lack of handling characteristic, essentially. That was really my only real complaint. It doesn't handle as well as like a Mazda CX-5 or Honda CR-V or anything like that. It was strictly made, in my opinion, to be a phenomenal cruiser. That's what I initially thought about that vehicle when I first drove it. Okay, not bad. That was foot to the floor right there, and I just chucked it into that turn, so pretty good. Not bad as a whole. But the thing is, last year when I drove the vehicle, it was the turbocharged model with just front-wheel drive. If I drove it in all-wheel drive, I'm sure it would have been fine. And I said in that video that the naturally aspirated motors shouldn't be a huge problem because it's more linear power delivery and it should be able to put down its power a little bit better in the front-wheel drive trim. And that seems to be the case here. And let's go ahead and let's talk about some of the specs here and what got changed for 2021. So what's new here engine-wise, okay, the 2.4 liter got updated to the 2.5 liter naturally aspirated engine. So this thing now produces 191 horsepower and 181 pounds-feet of torque. So that's up by a little bit of horsepower over the previous generation, or the previous model year, really. In 1 year, they did a whole kind of refresh / redesign. So that's pretty interesting. Yeah, really smooth power. You hardly even notice the car getting up to speeds here, so that's really great. 8-speed automatic, still continues to be hyper smooth here, so I really do appreciate that. In typical Hyundai Kia fashion, I really love their 8 speeds. But okay, so that's the 2.5 liter naturally aspirated engine. That's what we're dealing with here. The turbo engine also got updated to a 2.5 liter turbocharged motor, produces like 280 something horsepower and like 311 pounds-feet of torque. So that's a really quick motor right there. A huge improvement over the 2-liter turbo from last year. And then the newest addition is a 1.6-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder hybrid. So we're not going to be talking about those two models here because that's a different video for a different day, but just know those are your new engine options. I think that this motor is plenty for most people. I'm about to take this model out here on the highway in a little bit, but for the most part, this car still continues to keep those ride quality attributes that I really appreciated in last year's model, as well as the quietness. But again, we'll check more of that here, as well as the handling. Yeah, I feel like somehow they did, in fact, improve the handling here a little bit. I feel like it is putting down its power a little bit better. Granted, this is the naturally aspirated 4-cylinder. I'm just saying, though. Check out some of the high-speed stability here in a little bit. This particular model has a lot of safety features like blind spot monitoring, lane keep assist, all that good stuff. Doing some higher speeds, the stability is fantastic. And yeah, there's hardly any wind noise, any tire noise, nothing, man. Yeah, this rivals or even exceeds certain luxury cars. That's how damn good this vehicle is. I maintain what I said from last year's model. This continues to be the quietest model by far in the class. Some of the other 2021 changes I'll talk more about in the interior segment. But this car, keep in mind, this is front-wheel drive, okay? The curb weight has not been unveiled for this particular car yet, but from last year's model, we kind of know that's about 3,600 pounds for the front-wheel drive SELs like you see here, and maybe like 3,800 pounds if you get it with the all-wheel drive, and probably pushing about 4,000 pounds if you get every single option. The brakes are pretty progressive, you know, it's not like unbelievable braking power or anything like that, but it definitely does its job. So how's the speed in this thing? It's definitely not bad. There's a slight lag when you drive around in the regular mode. It's only a slight lag off the line, but once it gets up and moves, it's definitely a very smooth and progressive power buildup for sure. When you switch her over into the sport mode, the lag still kind of persists a little bit. I think they tuned it that way to keep the transmission logic to be very smooth, and it is smooth, so I guess they succeeded there, but I don't think it'll bother anybody. You know, most people buy this stuff, they just drive around 15 miles an hour under the speed limit, right? That's what most people do, so you know, just deal with that. Sport mode will keep you in that lower gear, essentially in a higher RPM, so it will be slightly more reactive, but you're going to be using way more fuel anyway, so I don't really recommend using the sport mode. To drive around with all these people that seem like they just got their driver's license yesterday, who are doing 10, 15, maybe even 20 miles an hour under the speed limit, this car truly exceeds in those regards. This model is rocking 18-inch wheels and 235 wide tires, so pretty good width on the tires there. Also kind of helping with the grip. It's got some hand-cooked tires on it as well. Steering is very light, kind of very easy steering to interact with. I mean, there's hardly any feedback, but you know, what car provides feedback nowadays? There's no like weird torque steer effects or anything like that. It's just a planted and smooth ride that is just perfect for American street driving, man. I don't know what else to tell you. It's just a great little daily driver. It's a really easy car to place out on the road. It's not even that large. It's only about like 188 inches long, I believe, as a whole. Still utilize strut-based suspension up front, a multi-link rear suspension. So really, the main key takeaways here is it continues to be literally best-in-class refinement and comfort. So if that's what you value, well, you're certainly going to get that here. It's for around 30 grand like you see here. This is kind of the perfect trim level that I would suggest most people going with, an SEL trim with the convenience package. So let's go ahead and let's transition over into the interior segment now. Okay, so now that we are stationary, let's go ahead and let's talk about this interior space. So the main changes made is with the infotainment system. That seems to be what most people care about. So gone is the base 7-inch screen. It's now been updated to an 8-inch screen. So that is now the base screen size. Now you can also upgrade to a 10.25-inch screen. Before, you only had an option of a 8-inch screen as the upgrade. So now you get the 8-inch standard and the 10.25-inch as an upgrade. So what you see here is the 8-inch Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. That comes as standard even if you got the SE trim. But this is the SEL with the convenience package. So with the convenience package, you get this leather-wrapped steering wheel, which is definitely a nice touch. It's a great thing to grip onto on an everyday basis. You get the 12.3-inch class-leading gauge cluster, the electronic gauge cluster, mind you. So as you can see here, I really love the design, the sharpness, the quality of this screen. Look at the gauges on this thing. It's kind of has like this, like these lines going through it, almost like the grain of a wood trim, I suppose. I don't even know how to explain it. It's not quite like that, but it's different. When you put it into the sport mode, it kind of changes into this red/carbon fiber effect. It's very cool. It definitely looks awesome. So I'm definitely a fan of that. And it shows you like the same kind of basic information. Fortunately, it's very easy to go through the screen. It's not super complicated or anything like that. You can change a lot of your settings with the driver's assistant, you know, lighting, the doors, you know, how they all kind of function and interact. So you can really kind of customize that for you. And this vehicle has about 1,400 miles if I have not mentioned that already. When I initially got into this vehicle, I thought that this was like a carbon fiber texture, but it's not. But it does look very cool, especially with this kind of aluminum kind of trimming / bezel that keeps going around it. So it has a kind of premium, more upscale touch to it. It's not quite on the level of a Mazda, but it's still very nice nonetheless. There's definitely a lot more attention and detail put into this cabin space as opposed to something like a Honda, if you will. This is definitely a very cool interior space. And a lot of the other things that make this vehicle very quiet is due to this acoustic laminated glass in the front windshield here. That's also something you get with the convenience package. So it's an $1,800 option, definitely worth it in my opinion. You get some niceties here, like the acoustic glass, like the 12.3-inch gauge cluster screen, the leather wrapped steering wheel, and a few other things I'm kind of missing out here. But you also get double pane glass here, which also helps with how quiet this vehicle is. And you only have one touch up and down windows for the front two windows here, not for the rear, which is kind of bizarre to me, but whatever. I like how you have your own separate dedicated climate control buttons here at the bottom, but you do have to look up at the screen to see your fan speed, your temperature, all that good stuff. You do have heated seats in here, which is excellent. And these seats are the cloth seats. Not only do they look amazing, but they seem to be extremely comfortable as well. So it's a great non-fatiguing seat for long drives. This is definitely, like I mentioned in the drive, a phenomenal cruiser. So take advantage of that. There's no sunroof with this model, but I suppose that does help with the rigidity of this car. I guess who are you fooling here? Rigidity of the freaking car. I mean, it still kind of rolls around in the corners. Handling is not its forte, but it's an improvement, I believe, over the 2020. So there you go. This 8-inch screen seems to be classic Kia Hyundai setup right here. I mean, it's very easy to interact with. And I am noticing some lag here with this particular model, but you know, it is what it is. For the most part, at least it's extremely easy to interact with. Definitely one of the better infotainment systems that I have ever used in a vehicle. Also for 2021, they ditched the kind of physical gear lever knob. They actually went for this more sleek, if you will, electronic shifter where you just kind of push the button for reverse, for drive. I don't mind it. It's actually a pretty good system. Got two cup holders here. You got a USB port. Center armrest space isn't bad either, and glove box isn't terribly large, but it's okay. You can definitely put some things in there. Door pocket space, I wish it was a little bit larger, but oh well. You get a 6-speaker audio system here, so if you want the Harman Kardon 12-speaker system, you have to upgrade to the premium package. I believe that's what it's called, but it's about $4,000 more. I'm not really sure if that's worth it because, you know, it's a Hyundai, it's a value product. You're better off getting an SEL like this convenience package, and if you want to spend more money, maybe spend like $1,700 and get the all-wheel drive if you need that, if you live in really inclement weathers, but for the most part, it shouldn't really be a problem. The front wheel drive should be good for most people, so you can even save that money. Go light on the options and get this vehicle as cheap as you possibly can. That's my recommendation. And I'm 5'11". Getting in and out of this vehicle is really easy. I have plenty of headroom, of course. That's not really an issue either. Now let's go ahead and let's talk about the rear seats. So rear seats, they continue to be about the same as the previous 2020 Santa Fe. So that means I have plenty of space back there to sit behind myself. Oh, and the front seats are electric controlled seats, mind you. That is a pretty nice, convenient feature, but it's not memory seats, so keep that in mind. But anyway, back to the rear seats. You also get some privacy shades that are manually operated. That's also another feature of the convenience package. So that's what I'm saying. If you have a baby or something back there, it's a nice, convenient feature to have. You can put that up, prevent some of that sun coming in. You also have two USB ports back there as well as HVAC vents, so that's great. Now let's talk about the trunk and end this review off. So the trunk space, I believe this 2021 model got 0.5 cubic feet more space in the trunk. I don't really notice it, but it is a good sized trunk back there. And no, this vehicle does not have a 3-row option. Even if it did, it would be a waste of time. If you need a proper 3-row, upgrade to the Palisade. But in this vehicle, you do have some storage space under the trunk, which is nice, and the spare tire is actually mounted underneath the vehicle, but you do still get a spare. So as a whole, what are my thoughts on this vehicle? This is certainly a vehicle to put on your short list. There's so much competition in this class. There's a lot of vehicles in this class, but Hyundai seem to be a good place to start because they offer you a lot of value for your money. They give you the pragmatic features that most human beings would want, and if you want to blow more money, you can. You can get nicer materials, Nappa leather seats, all the crap, the Harman Kardon. If you want, you're going to be pushing like $35,000, $36,000, maybe even closer to $40,000, especially with the all-wheel drive. But that's up to you if you want to blow that money. If you don't want to blow the money, you still get a well-equipped vehicle that has great dynamics out on the road and is by far one of the quietest vehicles in the class. And you have two more engine options this year to choose from. The turbo model if you want insane power, and you have an option of getting that with front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. I would definitely recommend you getting it with the all-wheel drive. And the good thing about the hybrid model, even though it costs like $6,000 more starting price over a base SE Santa Fe, you get all-wheel drive as standard, and it's up to you if the fuel economy gains are worth it to you. I've heard from certain sources that the fuel economy isn't really that great for a hybrid in the Santa Fe hybrid, so something to keep in mind. So with that, thank you so much for watching this review. Take care and goodbye.